When Mary Donaldson met Frederick of Denmark in 2000, she was working as a lawyer. I had no idea that 23 years later I would be queen. There are two theories about how Mary Donaldson, 51, and Frederick of Denmark, 55, crossed paths, but both hail from Sydney, Australia, the former's birthplace. He was the scandalized son of Queen Margaret and she was an anonymous lawyer of Irish descent. Justification for the collision of two such different worlds? The 2000 Olympics. How did Mary Donaldson meet Frederick of Denmark? Of the two versions that are circulating, one is more cinematic and is the one that people like to tell. They started talking in a pub in the most casual way. She was accompanied by a few friends, and he was accompanied by other members of the European monarchies, such as Princess Martha Louise of Norway. In a lively chat, they exchanged phone numbers and promised to see each other again. She would later discover that she had had contact with at least the prince. Hollywood scenario. Another version, much less romantic, is that Mary Donaldson receives an invitation to attend a dinner to which she knows in advance that members of the royal family have been invited. Whether more planned or more casual, the truth is that many more people showed up after the first meeting. She was natural, approachable, and fun. And that had the same effect on the prince as it would have on the Danish people. And in Denmark, they adore Maria. The princess is much loved by the Danes, who were drawn to this story, almost like a movie, of a simple lawyer falling in love with a boy, not knowing he was a prince. Queen Margaret did not treat Mary Donaldson favorably. Mary Donaldson, despite coming from a family of European descent, the truth is that she knew next to nothing about monarchies or anything that she would have had to consider almost her own when she became engaged to Frederick. And the lawyer had left behind her life and everything she knew to embrace a culture that must have been very distant to her, starting with language. Federico and Mary Donaldson's relationship was working out beautifully. They were excited and he would run down to Sydney at every opportunity to see her. She also started going to Copenhagen to see what he was talking to her about. She seemed to be the one. But Queen Margaret, her future mother-in-law, didn't quite like it. Such an attitude was not unusual for her. The monarch had rejected his eldest son's previous girlfriends. He did not want as a future spouse a girl with the past of a model, singer or actress. She wanted to marry a young aristocrat or, if possible, a member of another royal family. Despite her old-fashionedness, Marguerite had no choice but to accept Mary with more or less pleasure, who had no scandalous past and the only thing she devoted herself to was her studies and work. So, in the end, he had to take communion with her. With the Queen's approval, Mary Donaldson carefully prepared for her future role. In 2002, he settled in Denmark and devoted himself to learning the Danish language. Not only that, you must also convert to the Lutheran Church. It is months of a lot of information that must arrive in time for the date set. In 2003, the engagement was announced, and a few months later, in May 2004, the solemnization of the marriage took place, which made the lawyer who knew nothing about monarchies a princess of Denmark. 800 guests, representatives of all the royal houses and many anonymous people on the streets, prisoners of the Donaldsonomania that had just begun. Mary Donaldson and Letitia, parallel paths. The similarities that emerged then with Letitia were permanent. Two commoners, women with solid careers, independent and very professional, were about to become princesses, something they probably never imagined. If Mary was a lawyer, Letitia was a journalist. It was just easier for the Asturian woman since she at least had a command of the language. Both were questionable, but both had more than demonstrated over time that they could be the best representatives of the crown, who could do their job with amazing professionalism and, moreover, make all citizens feel at ease around them. There is no longer a trace of that first hostility. Mary Donaldson has earned her position in the Danish crown. Her mother-in-law, Queen Margaret, appreciates her and recognizes that she will make a fine monarch tomorrow.